this woman I'd seen so often was sitting on the steps, and she called me over, and she told me her story about how her son had been murdered, and she'd come to the court a lot to be a part of these proceedings to demand justice. And when these young people were finally convicted of this crime, she didn't feel vindication and justice. She felt just overwhelmed because she saw their mothers sitting in the courtroom crying. And she said she just felt compelled to go over to them and put her arm around them. And she said for the last, I don't know how many years, she said for years, I come to the courtroom and I look for people who are just suffering, whose hearts have been broken because they've lost somebody or because they're about to lose somebody who's going off to prisons. And we, you know,
and then I just left. And I just scoot up next to them.
Yeah, that's right.
And my ministry is,
yes, that's right.
is the leading kind.
Exactly. And then she said to me, she says, I know what you are.
It's always ominous.
Yeah. And then she said, you're a stonecatcher like I am. And we sat down next to each other and just started talking about, you know, the scripture where Jesus is confronted by those who are ready to condemn the woman who's been caught in adultery. Yeah. And they want to trick him, and they say, you know, tell us what to do. The scriptures tell us we should cast stones and kill this woman. And of course we read that, you know, Jesus makes marks in the ground and then very in a disruptive way says, you know, we'll let whoever of you is without sin cast the first stone. And they're challenged by that, convicted by that, and they all walk away. And he just says to the woman, go and sin no more. And what's powerful for me about that story is that it required a certain amount of consciousness for those who condemn to recognize that they were not without sin and put down their stones. And that we've gotten to a point in our contemporary struggle where we have made our identity and our religiosity and our self-righteousness so much a part of our identity that we don't have that consciousness. Yes. We throw the stones anyway, even though Jesus is still saying, let him who's without sin cast the first stone. And I just think that that means that some of us can't just shake our heads and be outraged by that. Some of us actually have to position ourselves in front of the condemned, in front of those who'd be the objects of this, and we have to catch those stones. And I want to catch the stones that are thrown at my clients. I want to catch the stones that are thrown at children. I want to catch the stones that are thrown at people who are suffering from trauma and addiction and abuse. And I want to catch them because I don't want them to be battered and beaten and destroyed by this unjust anger and violence. But I also want to catch them to give those who cast the stones an opportunity for one more chance to hear what we are supposed to hear, to be called to what we're supposed to be called to, which is not condemnation and judgment, but to justice and mercy. Yes. And in that respect, I think you're right. You have to have a kind of consuming love that gets you to see everybody. If your love is the kind that can only flourish when you blind yourself to these people and their needs and these people and their needs, I just don't think it's going to be that kind of love that endures, that lifts and transacts.